I'm Michelle Starr. Welcome to this podcast segment. You don't need the certificate. The two-faced dynamic, circles of friends, and real leadership. Today, I want to talk about something real, something you see every day, but maybe you've never had the words for it. You'll notice in life that people behave differently depending on who they're around. With their close friends, they're one person. With acquaintances, they're someone else. With people they want something from, they become someone completely different. This is what I call the two-faced dynamic. And I don't mean fake in a dramatic soap opera way. I mean the way people adjust themselves, their tone, their confidence, even their personality, just to fit in or to be liked. Some people shrink around certain people. Some people become louder. Some people pretend they know more than they actually do. Some become the joker. Some become the quiet one. And it's not about authenticity, it's about survival. So this is how most 3D people operate. They talk at the level that they feel safe. They connect only where they feel they can't be judged. They show only the parts of themselves that they think are acceptable. Not because they're bad people, because they were never taught how to be real. Now let's talk about circles of friends. We all have three circles. The inner circle, the ones who actually know you. The middle circle, acquaintances, people you get along with but don't go deep with. And the outer circle, the people who only know a surface level version of you. And here's where the tension happens. People often try to get validation from their outer circle instead of recognizing the wisdom, love, and honesty in their inner circle. That's why people become two-faced. They're trying to belong in circles they don't actually resonate with. Now, here's the big one. The idea that leadership requires a certificate. This is where, this 3D mindset actually begins. We've been conditioned to believe you need a qualification to matter. You need you need like a title to be respected. You need an institution to approve you. You need a piece of paper to say you can lead. People walk around feeling unworthy because they never got the certification or the certificate. They assume the person with the diploma knows more. They assume the person with the title is the leader. And here's the truth. Life doesn't hand out certificates, it hands out experience. And experience is where real leaders are created. I know people who have degrees but no understanding. I know people with certificates but no wisdom. I know people with titles but no integrity. And I also know people who have lived through trauma, rebuilt their lives, carried responsibility, learned through hardship, and shown up for others again and again. People who have real leadership and no certificate to prove it. For anyone listening, what I'd like you to do is please hear this. You don't need a piece of paper if you have lived experience. You don't need approval if you've done the work. You don't need a title if people naturally look to you. Leadership is not something you're given. Leadership is something you embody. Some people with low emotional intelligence won't understand this because they only see leadership as a status and not behavior. They think leadership is owning a business, having staff, having a certificate, having a title, being important. Real leadership looks nothing like that. Real leadership is being calm when others panic, being honest when others hide, seeing what needs to be done, being accountable to your values, showing people how to rise simply by rising yourself, having lived enough life to speak from truth, not theory. The kind of leadership comes from within, not from a classroom. And why does this matter? Because there are people right now, maybe you, maybe people like Chris, maybe someone listening who feel less than because they don't have the certificate. When in reality, they have more wisdom than many professionals. People with real experience often underestimate themselves. People with paper qualifications often overestimate themselves. And here's that deeper truth. Most people who insist on certificates are simply trying to feel important. Most people who dismiss experience do it because they're threatened by it. Most people who judge others' qualifications are insecure about their own. Yet someone who has lived, learned, fallen, rebuilt, healed, and grown, that person has earned their leadership without needing a stamp of approval. And let me say it clearly for the 3D mind. A certificate teaches you the rules. Life teaches you the truth. A certificate gives you knowledge. Life gives you wisdom. A certificate says you're qualified. Life makes you capable. One can be taken away. The other cannot. So my closing message for you and anyone who needs this: stop thinking that you need to become someone else to lead. Stop thinking you have to earn permission to speak. Stop thinking your experience doesn't count. It counts more than you realize. You don't need to talk at anyone's level. You don't need to fit in with any circle. You don't need to be two-faced to be accepted. You don't need the certificate when you are the evidence. Now, thank you for listening for this part of the podcast. And if you would like to share this information, please do so or subscribe. And I thank you for listening.